There is a highly contagious, deeply embarrassing, and entirely delusional psychological virus currently infecting the absolute darkest, most irrational corners of the global tennis internet right now. And it is being actively, aggressively fueled by a deeply passionate but completely uneducated casual fan base that simply cannot emotionally accept the harsh, unyielding, and brutal reality of elite professional sports. Welcome back to the premier destination on the entire internet for the raw, unapologetic, and completely unfiltered truth behind the ruthless business, the agonizing locker room psychology, and the elite tactical biomechanics of the WTA Tour. Today we are violently dropping the absolute hammer of reality on one of the most absurd, mathematically impossible, and entirely fabricated conspiracy theories that has ever plagued the modern tennis landscape. Following the completely staggering, heartbreaking collapse of the Philippines' global sensation Alex Eala against the fiercely aggressive former French Open champion Jelena Ostapenko at the Linz Open, a massive, highly coordinated, and completely delusional internet rumor has started aggressively circulating. Massive social media accounts, fan pages, and heavily biased forums are actively, loudly claiming that the WTA is currently investigating the match. They are claiming that due to extreme crowd hindrance and alleged unsportsmanlike conduct, this high-stakes showdown is miraculously going to be officially replayed. Let us be completely, undeniably, and entirely crystal clear right now. That rumor is absolute, unmitigated, and entirely pathetic garbage. There is absolutely 0% chance, 0 mathematical probability, and 0 bureaucratic precedent for this match to ever be replayed. We are going to aggressively tear apart the completely archaic but entirely rigid WTA rulebook. We are going to expose the absolute truth behind Ostapenko's highly publicized spectator confrontation. And we are going to deliver a massive, deeply uncomfortable reality check to a fan base that is desperately begging for a corporate bailout instead of demanding pure athletic accountability. Buckle up, hit that subscribe button to support the absolute only channel delivering the undisputed truth. Turn on your notifications, and let us ruthlessly dissect the absolute anatomy of the greatest fan delusion of the entire season. To truly deeply comprehend the sheer staggering magnitude of the absolute absurdity driving these match replay rumors, you have to meticulously analyze the incredibly dark, suffocating, and entirely unforgiving legal framework of the Women's Tennis Association. The traditional sports media loves to generate cheap clicks by pretending that the WTA is a completely fluid, deeply empathetic organization that actively cares about the emotional feelings of rising superstars. But in the cold, hard, absolutely ruthless reality of global sports business, the WTA operates under a highly rigid, deeply bureaucratic, and utterly uncompromising set of legal statutes. In the entire multi-decade history of the professional tennis tour, a completed match has absolutely never ever been officially overturned, erased from the record books, or mathematically replayed simply because a player was heavily distracted by the crowd. Matches are not replayed because of perceived momentum shifts. Matches are not replayed because a loud, deeply obnoxious fan sitting in the Austrian front row actively yelled during a critical second serve. Matches are not replayed because an opponent engaged in a highly intense, prolonged argument with the chair umpire. The casual internet fan base is aggressively creating highly dramatized, fictional legal loopholes that simply do not exist in the actual violent world of professional tennis. When the chair umpire officially calls game, set, match, and the two athletes physically approach the net to conduct the final handshake, the mathematical result is permanently, undeniably etched into the immortal history books in thick black ink. Jelena Ostapenko won that tennis match 6-4, 7-5. The points have been officially awarded. The prize money has been officially allocated. Ostapenko has already physically moved on to the quarterfinals. The idea that a massive billion-dollar corporate entity like the WTA would completely halt a highly scheduled, internationally televised tournament to force two elite athletes back onto the crushed red clay to replay a match because the internet is angry is an absolute unmitigated fairy tale. We absolutely must aggressively dive into the elite tactical and psychological reality of the specific incident that actively triggered this massive wave of global internet delusion. The casual fan base is aggressively pointing their fingers directly at the highly chaotic, entirely volatile moment in the second set. Jelena Ostapenko, completely facing down a terrifying, seemingly insurmountable 5-1 deficit, actively engaged in a massive, highly visible verbal altercation with a disruptive spectator in the Austrian crowd. The deeply passionate, highly emotional fans of Alex Eala are loudly claiming that Ostapenko actively illegally utilized this specific confrontation as an unearned medical timeout. They are claiming she essentially manufactured a fake, completely artificial delay of game to entirely ice out the young Filipina prodigy and completely shatter her serving rhythm. They claim this is undeniable proof of illegal gamesmanship that explicitly warrants a full match replay. But when you completely strip away the loud emotional bias and look directly at the cold, hard psychological topography of the sport, you realize a dark truth. Ostapenko did absolutely nothing illegal. Complaining to the chair umpire about a legitimate fan hindrance is entirely within the absolute legal rights of any professional player on the tour. The umpire physically permitted the delay, actively managed the crowd interaction, and officially resumed play within the legal parameters of the sport. Was it highly chaotic? Absolutely. Was it incredibly frustrating for Eala? Without a single shadow of a doubt, but it was absolutely not a violation of the fundamental rules of tennis that would ever in a million years mathematically justify a replay. Ostapenko simply recognized a completely hostile environmental variable, actively brought it to the absolute forefront of the match, and utilized the resulting chaos to entirely reset her own chaotic brain. It was not a cheat code. It was the brutal, entirely legal reality of top-tier professional sports. This massive, highly lucrative tactical reality brings us directly to the absolute, undeniable, suffocating concept of elite psychological warfare. This is precisely what the casual fan base completely fails to understand. When you are actively competing at the absolute highest echelons of the WTA Tour against former Grand Slam champions, you are not just playing a physical game of hitting a fuzzy yellow ball over a net. You are actively engaging in incredibly dark, isolated, and highly volatile psychological combat. Elite, battle-hardened veterans like Jelena Ostapenko have spent their entire lives mastering the absolute dark arts of momentum manipulation. They actively, ruthlessly weaponize the environment. They weaponize the crowd. They weaponize the specific timing of their towel breaks. They weaponize their emotional outbursts to completely change the geometric temperature of the arena. Alex Eala was actively dominating the match. She was holding a massive 5-1 lead. She was completely dictating the baseline rallies with her heavy left-handed Rafa Nadal Academy topspin. She had her opponent entirely pinned to the absolute floor. But the exact millisecond Ostapenko initiated that highly disruptive delay, Eala's pristine, machine-like concentration completely and violently shattered. The brutal, unforgiving lesson here is not that Ostapenko cheated and the match should be replayed. The brutal lesson is that Alex Eala completely failed to mentally survive the chaos. A true, immortal generational champion absolutely must possess the terrifying, cold-blooded killer instinct to completely ignore the circus happening on the other side of the net, walk directly up to the service line, and violently serve the match out. Eala allowed the external, uncontrollable variables to actively seep into her own biomechanical execution. It resulted in a completely catastrophic 0% win rate on her second serve and an absolute barrage of broken service games. The loss was entirely mathematically dictated by a failure of mental execution, not a failure of the rulebook. But the absolute most dangerous, highly toxic aspect of these fabricated match replay rumors is the profound, deeply terrifying psychological damage it actively threatens to inflict upon Alex Eala's own long-term athletic development. When a fiercely passionate, completely devoted fanbase aggressively surrounds a young athlete with massive, comforting excuses, they are actively poisoning her ultimate potential. If the casual internet echo chamber successfully convinces Eala and her elite coaching staff that she was entirely robbed, that the match was fundamentally unfair, and that she somehow deserves a bureaucratic bailout, they completely strip away her athletic accountability. Growth, absolute biomechanical evolution, and terrifying mental fortitude are exclusively forged in the incredibly dark, highly agonizing fires of massive, heartbreaking defeat. Eala absolutely needs to feel the full, crushing, completely unmitigated weight of blowing a 5-1 lead to a Grand Slam champion. She needs to physically taste the bitter disappointment. She needs to look directly into the cold, hard mirror and absolutely acknowledge that when the ultimate terrifying pressure of closing out a top-tier opponent presented itself, her second serve completely evaporated, and her killer instinct violently failed her. The elite, highly specialized minds at the Rafa Nadal Academy do not build immortal champions by filing completely useless internet petitions for match replays. They build champions by aggressively marching directly back onto the practice court, completely breaking down the flawed mechanics, and spending 1,000 agonizing hours meticulously engineering a highly weaponized second serve that will never, ever break down under pressure again. The victim mentality is the absolute, undeniable death of greatness, and the fans pushing this ridiculous replay rumor are actively attempting to turn a future global titan into a highly fragile, completely protected victim. The clock is officially, permanently stopped in Linz. The massive alarm bells have completely ceased ringing. The absolute reality of the situation is written in undeniable stone. We are actively, confidently calling out the entire global tennis internet right now, and we are absolutely not backing down from this massive reality check. The match between Eala and Jelena Ostapenko is completely, entirely, and permanently over. There will be absolutely no replay. There will be absolutely no magical corporate intervention. The paradigm of global women's tennis requires absolute, unyielding mental toughness. And the Filipina superstar just received the ultimate, most heavily brutal education of her entire professional career. Defeating players like Jelena Ostapenko on the heavy European clay is not just about raw power, it is about completely surviving the absolute darkest, most chaotic psychological warfare imaginable. Eala has officially felt the terrifying velocity of a Grand Slam champion's desperate comeback, and she is going to actively use this massive devastation as high-octane rocket fuel for her absolute ascension. The revolution has absolutely not been cancelled by an Austrian spectator. It has simply been aggressively tested in the absolute deepest waters of the sport. Ensure you are permanently subscribed to this channel as we continue to ruthlessly document the greatest athletic ascension in modern tennis history. Turn on those notifications right now. We will be right here to analyze every single massive, undeniable reality check on the global stage.